Hello and welcome to the Break the Bias series of Time to Shine. This is your host Rukhsar, and today I'm in conversation with Paddy Kennedy. She is the founder and the CEO and principal of her own international communication company, that is Kennedy Communication Studio. She's a former radio journalist and freelance for Canada's largest broadcasting arm, that is Broadcast News. And she's doing several multiple works like taking workshops, attending interviews, and writing a book, Their Voice. So all about this we will know in this interview. So welcome, Paddy, on my show, and it is a true honor for you to have on my show here.
Well, thank you, Rukhsar, and it's a true honor to be invited to come on your show. I've seen a couple of the episodes and I've really enjoyed them. So thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you so much. So, Paddy, I have seen your workshops, and most of your works revolve around the coaching and training on leadership. So, what is that one, main, strategy of leadership? One main rule that you tell or you focus on in your sessions or to your listeners?
Well, I've been coaching leaders now, business leaders, for about 22 years. And I would say that pre-COVID, I was very, very focused on authentic leadership. Authentic and author come from the same Greek word. And as a leader, in my opinion, and in my professional opinion, you really have to know who you are. And you have to, I know it sounds kind of shallow, but it's not, it's actually very deep. You need to know what are your core values, where do they come from? Because these things just don't come from books. We are influenced throughout our lives. A lot of times it's a series of questions that I would give my leadership clients. And a lot of times their values, their core values, their way of moving in the world comes from grandparents or a profound teacher, lessons that really had an impact on them. Because it's been my experience, especially in high levels of multinational business, it's a difficult, can be a dog-eat-dog world, and you have to be strong.
Yes.
And to me, the strongest person is the person who knows themselves, knows the ground upon which they stand, know who they are, where they come from, and why they believe and speak the way they do. But now, since COVID, we've really had to move forward. I mean, leadership has been trying to transform since the early days of Warren Bennis, the transformational leadership guru. And I think that leadership has really taken a big change as of COVID. For now, we have to bring in new core values. The whole world has been traumatized. And to ignore that would be a big mistake. So now we have to add the core value of empathy and care, which were kind of, what's the word, options, we could say before. In the old days of leadership, I started my serious leadership work in New York City in the year 2000. And in those days, leaders weren't so concerned about who was following them. It was a kind of the authoritarian my way or the highway. There was not much top-down communication, and there was almost no bottom-up communication. But now, in this, what one of my leadership clients calls the post-new normal, because the new normal is 2 years old now, in the post-new normal time, the CEO, the leaders, the directors, they have to be in touch with their employees. They have to use care and empathy and understanding, and they have to listen. Because, as I said, the whole world has been traumatized. And as teams began to work remotely or in the hybrid version, all kinds of things within the teams broke down. Trust, for example. When you're working in the office, you go to the IT department, you say, I need this done now, it's done now. But when you're working from home, you contact the IT department, you could be waiting 4 or 5 hours. So there was a change in the dynamic. So today's leaders have to be extremely agile. They must reinvent the way in which they are thinking. They have to reimagine. The supply chains have been broken drastically. How are we going to proceed? We have to reimagine. Many of them have to rethink their vision statements. They have to focus on resilience.
Exactly.
Many of my, not many, some of my leadership clients say, I can't wait to go back to the old way, to return. Some of it, the old way is going to come, but we cannot lead backwards. We must lead forward. We are in uncharted territory. We just get through COVID. Looks like maybe, please, we're getting through COVID, and now we have a war that's
Yeah.
threatening again supply chains, the psychology of our employees. And I think too that the biggest change is the change in my experience and with many of my clients. The new bottom line is employee well-being.
Exactly. Yes.
We have to take this into consideration, because if you want to make that bottom line of continuous profitability, today you've really got to be considering and listening to your team. You have to, as the leader, you have to ask your team, you must involve them. You must consider Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got to be working on building our team's self-esteem. Also, we're going through a technological revolution. People don't want to come to work for your dream or my dream. They have their own dream. How can we align their dreams with the dream of the company? Well, we have to develop their skills. We have to listen to them. We have to build them up. Co-elevation is a big word today in leadership. Everybody co-elevates, lifts up together, the leader as well as the team. We must smash down the silos. Leadership today, and it's very exciting for an old leadership coach like me, is brand new. We have new rules of leadership. We co-elevate. Everybody crosses the finish line together. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So according to you, like, leadership and communication is correlated. And if we have a better communication value, if we support communication, we are able to communicate much more, fluently. We have to set our goals. So what is that one main goal of your communication strategy?
Well, first of all, let me say that not all great communicators must be good leaders, but all good leaders must be good communicators. You know, George Bernard Shaw said, and I agree with him, even though he said it over 100 years ago, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. How many times it's happened to all of us? But I told you. No, you didn't. Yes, remember I said, well, that's not what I heard you say. I thought you meant this. And so many times as leaders, we talk to our teams, our colleagues, our immediate, those senior leaders right underneath us, and we can no longer assume that we have been heard. We have to find a strategy, and it's a very simple one, is just please repeat back to me what you heard me say, so that we all make sure that we are on the same page.
Exactly.
And that goes down to this trickle down of communication. There's not enough. You know how many employees do not have any idea of the vision or the goals of the company? To me, this is ridiculous.
Yes.
How can you expect me to get in your boat and paddle your boat if you don't tell me where we're going?
Exactly. This happens a lot. Like, they don't have the idea of how to run a company, and they are mostly dependent upon someone will help me, or I'll give this role to another person, they will handle it. So this happens. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's dangerous to assume. And we must make sure as leaders, the responsibility, the onus is on us as leaders to make sure that everybody understands the goal, the mission, the purpose, the reason why, the big why. Let's bring Simon Sinek in here. Your team needs to know the why just as much as your executives need to know the why. Everybody has to be in the same boat, headed in the same direction, or it's going to be helter-skelter. And it happens so frequently that it's shocking. And I do work with leaders who say, no, I don't need to tell them the vision. Well, I just say straight out, well, I'm not paddling your boat. If you don't tell me where we're going, I'm not getting in. Sorry.
Yes, exactly.
It's respect.
That's great. So that's why, employees are less productive because they are confused where we are going, right? And
And they're not
employers,
respected.
yeah.
Yeah.
So employers, they also, want that better performance, that 100% from the employees, but they fail to, follow the rules and instructions because employers are not able to communicate more efficiently.
Well, it's that, there's an enormous knowing
Yes.
doing gap, what's called the knowing doing gap. Like, in the United States, they spend about $60 billion a year training employees, giving them information. And
Yeah.
yet that information is not being utilized. And this is where communication, working with your employees' self-esteem, working with their development, including them in the vision, in the dream, because then they will buy in. When they have skin in the game, they will buy in. I gave a seminar about a month or so ago here in just outside of Dubai, in one of the cities that attaches itself to Dubai. And I was kind of nervous, Rukhsar, because it was the first time I thought, if I have to give one more session on team building and team trust, I'm going to go out of my mind. It doesn't really work. And I thought, I'm going to experiment. And so I had the CEO come. First of all, I had them all set out their personal goals and then their professional goals. And then I had the CEO come in and give a talk on the goals, the mission, the vision, because I wanted those employees to buy in. Because when I was interviewing the owner and the CEO, I said, what is the pain? What's the biggest problem?
Yeah.
And they said, well, we think that our staff feels that they don't belong. And well, that's a very common problem. So you know what I did? I decided I'm going to teach them strategic thinking and strategic planning, which is not something that teams are taught. That's for the higher ups.
Yes.
So I did. And as we listened to the CEO, we got all the main concerns and I wrote them down. And so there were 5 groups and I gave each group a choice of these different problems or pains that the CEO had mentioned. And I sat there, I said, okay, now here's your job. And I explained strategic thinking, and then I explained strategic planning. And I got them to use Tony Buzan's mind mapping and just brainstorm as a team, because each table was a team. And putting the pain in the middle, the issue in the middle, and then just branching out and following the Tony Buzan mind mapping method. And then time was up. I gave them about 30 minutes. And then I said, okay, now as a team, you must implement from that mind map, you must implement a strategy. So I gave them about another 20 minutes. And then I said, okay, now you must come up as a team and present to the room as if you have already accomplished this goal, as if it is 3 years from now and you have accomplished this goal. So there they were. We are so grateful that in 2022, we had this seminar where we really learned, and then they did the problem, and they did their strategic thinking through the mind mapping, and then they did the planning. And I'm telling you, the owner and the CEO were like, oh my God. And really, literally, they threw their hands up in the air and they said, they came up, God love them. They came up and said, we go away for weekends where we do our vision and our strategic thinking. And you all have made our thoughts look small. We had no idea the power and the potential that you all had. All 5 tables did it. Well, my business partner and I have another company. We just launched it here in Dubai. And that CEO and owner were there at this event. And I said, so how's your team? He said, Paddy, I can't even believe they're the same people. They are so invested. They love to come to work. When we hire new people, they come and say, we've got to train these people the same way that Paddy trained us. All I did was open up those doors of communication and try to find out how can we get that team to be on the same page, aligning their values, their goals, their hearts with the company. And it worked beautifully. I am never going back to the old traditional way of how to build team trust. I really thought if I have to do this one more time, I'll go out of my mind, because it just doesn't really work. It works in the moment, but 2 weeks from now, it's all forgotten. But this is now about 6 to 8 weeks later, and according to the bosses, they're still on it. They're gung-ho. This is what we need to do to
Exactly.
get our businesses moving forward and we've got to consider what they've all been through. Everybody has been concerned about COVID. My own son in Canada right now has COVID. I'm sitting here all by myself in Dubai and I know he's going to be fine, but there's a trauma to it. And I'm just like the rest of the people in the world.
That's yeah. So Paddy, I have seen in your bio that you have mentioned about the voice, your work, your campaign, and your book title as well. So can you tell our viewers something about this work, The Voice?
Well, I teach a lot of presentation skills to people in the community as well as professionals. And
Yes.
I am always shocked that nobody pays attention to the human voice.
Yeah.
This is the most incredible instrument of all of the instruments, and it is the most difficult to play. And you know why it's important? Because the vibrational quality, the resonance, we all say, oh, that really resonated with me. It means that the vibration touched me. So I could talk like this through this interview and everybody would just turn off the sound. Or I can come into my broadcaster's voice and I can lower it and I can utilize my instrument. And in that way, see, when I'm on the stage, you're on the stage, anybody is on the stage or in front of the boardroom speaking, the quality of vibration of the sound of our voice can actually enter into the brains of our listeners and can create new synapses in the brain. If you want to persuade or convince, you need to use your voice. You need to let that beautiful quality of the human instrument get into the minds of your listeners, and they'll sit there and they'll say, I've never thought of that way before. I don't understand why. No, okay, I'm a radio journalist and I chose radio over television because there's no body language. There's no facial expression. I have only the sound of my voice. And when I was a radio journalist, people had radios on in their car. And my job was to keep you from going to another radio station. Because if my voice did not get you to listen to the story, they were going to go to another radio station and I was going to lose my job. So I was so lucky to have one of the greatest voice coaches in Canada as my coach. And he instilled in me this magnificence of the human voice. So I use it. I don't care if you're the CEO or if you're a 12-year-old kid that's going in a speech contest. If I start talking to you like this, you're not going to want to listen to me. And all I've done is I've tightened my shoulders and I've tightened my vocal cord. You can hear the difference.
That's the same tone which we follow, and that's why people will tend to get bored of from listening the same tone of voice. That's why we call human voice the most important technology.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And may I say the most forgotten, and it's heartbreaking. Now, my book, Your Brave Voice, How to Speak from Your Heart and Sound Like a Professional. This is from a program that I put together for women. I mean, I work with both genders. I don't care. I'm an equal opportunity person. However, I've been a coach for 50 years. And I've come across some traits that are more common, shall we say, to women. And there are statistics that back it up. For example, when women are in a boardroom and we are outnumbered, we will speak 75% less than the men.
Yes.
We will tend to sit at the back of the room. We may have the all-time perfect answer to the problem that's being discussed, but if we don't have the courage to say it, some young kid over here, usually a man, is going to say what's on our mind, and he's going to be the hero of the meeting, and we're going to sit here. And another thing is that when women do find the courage to speak, the vocal cords get tight, and up goes that tone of voice again, and then the men start talking over them. And first of all, I want women. There are reasons why women don't speak up. It's
Yes.
socialization, there's fear, there's lack of confidence, shy, there's all kinds of reasons. And I want women, I'm going to say something quite maybe feminist for your audience. And I'm not at all a man basher at all. I raised a son, and I'm, by the grace of God, my late husband was one of the most beautiful men ever. I'm not a man basher. But throughout history, that's what we've had. His story. We have a war raging. We have only 9% of the boardrooms in the world have women CEOs. Her story, our stories are not coming forward.
Yes.
When in 1993, I interviewed the Dalai Lama. And this is where your brave voice actually comes from. It took me 30 years to get this going. Oh, 29 years. We were talking about the environment. And in 1993, we were under the threat still of nuclear war. And he said to me that the men in power and their love for war toys would take the world to the brink of destruction. And it would be the women of the world who would bring us back. And I said, how? He said, by using your voice. It's not about women being better than men. It's not even really about equality, because we are, although we don't have parity. We are equal. It's about a balance.
Yes.
Arms for men are guns. Arms for women are what we hold our babies with. They're what we hug each other with. It's not that one is right and the other is wrong. It's that we have too much of one and not enough of the other. Women must find our bravery. We are all of us brave. You know, Maya Angelou said, when one woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all women. Well, I want to take that. I love Maya Angelou, but when one woman tells her story, she tells her story, our story. We are brave. And so we get our courage, we find our bravery, and then we train this so that our voice commands respect, so that we are listened to.
Exactly.
He asked me, the Dalai Lama asked me in 1993 to do this. Back then I was just nobody. But now I have a global reputation. I have clients in 110 countries. I am now listened to. So I'm now building my gentle army of vocal women to rise up and raise up our voices, to speak on behalf of the children. The problem with war, I don't care, you know, but I wish that all, like I lived in Papua New Guinea for a long time. And when they have tribal wars there, they rent like a big football field. And all the men that want to fight in the war, they just go in the football field and they got their spears and they duke it out and they fight each other. And then the whistle blows and they have lunch. I think that's what we should just fight wars and leave the children alone. Quit killing the children. Quit killing innocent people. If you want to fight over the land or over tariffs or over a port, go over there and do it. And if we had more women at the table, as a Canadian, I'm very proud that our Canadian Prime Minister has a woman defense minister and her deputy minister is a woman.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great. It depends upon the government also, and you know, the people to whom we are surrounded, how they uplift us, and even on woman herself, that how she empower her own self. So it depends on both the factors.
And we have to start, women need to start supporting each other.
Yes.
I have found that in my long career, I can't really think of maybe one or two men that have ever tried to gossip about me, but oh boy, I got a list of women.
That happens.
It's happening, and we are better than that. And I think one reason why it's happening is we've been pushed into competition and we've accepted it. This is no man's fault. Because what do you do when you're born? What's the first thing you do when you're born? You raise your voice. And if you don't raise your voice, they're smacking you, they're sticking tubes in you. Man, boys, girls, we are born, we raise our voice. We have been silenced throughout history. We have, for whatever reason, accepted the silence. We have lost our confidence to speak up. and it's only up to us, and we must support
Exactly.
each other.
Yeah,
If you don't
it is.
go ahead,
Yes,
sorry.
yes, Paddy, you can. Yeah,
Well,
you
I'm
can.
just going to say, I always say to women, if you don't like what a sister is doing, then walk away. Wish her
Yes,
well, wish her good luck, and walk away. You don't, why do you have to get involved? Why do you have to say, why?
yes.
Who does that serve? Nobody.
And it happens in the, women, in majority, because men will not do these kind of things. Women get indulge in these, in such things, and they don't want other women to go, further in life, or to achieve something great. They will do something or the other to demotivate, and that is not a good thing for the, development.
And it keeps setting us back. We are 140 years away, according to the World Economic Forum. There's 140 years to come before we have gender parity. This is not a woman's issue. This is an issue for little boys and little girls not even yet born. 140 years, how many generations? How many generations of boys are going to be born where they are expected to carry the burden? Because women are expected to be fragile and little birds in a tree. It can't.
Yes.
This is just, women have children, for God's sake. I mean, how brave is that?
Yes,
If we weren't brave,
exactly.
there wouldn't be any human race. We'd stop after the first one. We'd never go
Exactly.
back. So it's just, but I think that as women, we just have to stop that.
Yes.
We need to be the kind of woman that supports other women, and because it's not for us, it's for the children. And it's
Yes.
for the children not yet born. We owe it to them.
Exactly. Yeah. So thanks, Paddy, for joining today on my show. And I hope your words will change millions of people out there who's listening this talk show. And I hope you will inspire. You will inspire further with your works, with your workshops, with the books you write, and with the works, whichever work you do. So I wish you all the very best for all your future endeavors. And thanks once again for joining and agreeing to do this episode with me.
Well, thank you very much. I'm on a mission. I'm an old lady now, and I'm almost 70, and I'm just going to keep on going
That's
until
wonderful.
I can't go, because I am passionate about this work, all of the work with leaders, but it all affects generations to come. And we need to think about our legacy. What kind of world and societies are, and it doesn't matter what culture you come from, it doesn't matter what religion you come from. These are just human rights, God-given rights, especially magnificent voice. So thank you for having me, and I hope that your listeners take something away from today. Thank you, my dear.
Yeah, thank you so much.